Good morning, folks. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. This morning, I want to talk about election fraud. There are elections this November. Again, there are elections this November. The mayor and other council members are up for re-election, as well as county legislators. So there's elections this November. Early voting starts October 28th. November 7th is election day. Make sure you tell a friend to go out and vote. Good morning, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. I want to remind you there are elections coming up. Early voting October 28th. Election day is November 7th. But many people are concerned that they're trying to suppress voter turnout. Is that what's happening? They're trying to keep it very low. They don't want a lot of people coming out because that benefits the incumbents, those that are in office currently. But there are other people out there running for office. I think so far the most serious one is Anthony Moranti. And even he kind of needs to step it up. He has to make sure that he's going out there a bit more, being more vocal, saying, hey, there are elections. And if you are a candidate running for any office, whether in Yonkers or at the county level, you have to make more noise. Although Jose Diaz, let me not forget, who's having an event tonight. And if you support Jose Diaz, make sure you check out his event. I posted the flyer. He's posted the flyer. He's a serious candidate as well. He's going up against Jose Alvarado for District 17, again, on the Board of Legislators. But people are concerned that they're trying to keep voter turnout low by keeping it hush-hush, not letting it really be known that there's elections going on. And many people don't know. But what also a lot of people don't know are the changes that are coming. And as more and more people are finding out what's going to happen over at ShopRite, people are starting to really think about the future. Are they going to still be there? Are they going to remain? It's now becoming maybe more clear that this isn't for us, right? First, I want to talk about voter fraud. That's important. That's another concern of mine. It's a serious concern. I spoke about this many times on my podcast, specifically about the County Board of Legislators, Westchester County Board of Legislators up there. I think that they need to be investigated. I had an interview with Republican candidate Dan Branda. He's running for County Board of Legislators, District 4. He's going up against Vedad Gashi, who is currently also the chair of the Board of Legislators. He's talking about it. He is talking about the corruption, and he's talking about the state trying to take over local elections. And that's what it feels like, right? We see a lot of state politicians recently here in Yonkers hanging out with the developers, but not going into the school buildings, something that's a dire need, not checking out the infrastructure and the sewage, right? The whole infrastructure with that, how sewage is removed and the drains and the water systems, right? So we don't have this flooding here. Did they come and evaluate that? No. They're talking about developments. They're hanging out with the developers. They're taking over local elections. A call to support candidates in opposition to the takeover or the state takeover of our local elections. This year, more than ever, we need to support candidates who see local government as an opportunity for service to the community, not for power. And that sounds like Jose Diaz to me, for sure. He just popped up in my head. The Democratic supermajorities in the state Senate and Assembly passed legislation that will cancel local elections. Only the governor's signature stands in the way of making their plan a reality. In an op-ed for the Times Union, State Senator James Scoufis of Orange County says, the quiet part out loud, this plan is a power grab. The New York State Democrats' plot to cancel local elections is not about an informed electorate making the best collective choices for their local government. It's about consolidating power, transforming our local governments into Democratic Party-controlled branches of state government. This guy is a Republican, obviously, but what's concerning is their attempt to want to cancel local elections. They want the power resting safely in the hands of elected officials, which he said does not exist right now. Instead of, according to Scalfis or whatever his name is, we have to suffer our local officials blatantly disregarding the needs of the very people they were elected to represent. That's a fact. And I'll talk about that in a second. First, for every example that was given of insufferable local officials blatantly disregarding the electorate, I'll show you two at the state and federal level. You know, those elected in even years. My bag is quite full, and it includes the governor, the past governor, dozens of Scalfis colleagues, and probably even Scalfis himself, whoever that guy is. Folks, the point is that our elections, are being tampered with. You know, many people are jaded and they're not going out to vote. A lot of people that I asked if they were voting told me no, they're not going to vote. You know, people don't see a point in voting because they feel that this is all rigged. It doesn't matter. Whatever they want is going to happen anyway. And that's a very, disheartening, reality. What do we do about that? Do we just lie down in defeat? Obviously, that's not who I am. I'm ready to make some noise, but it takes a united front, and people have to be first informed about what's going on. They have to be informed about the people, the players that are involved in our politics. They are people that are involved in our politics that have been convicted of political corruption. And so we should be screaming from the top of the highest hill here in the city of Hills, why is this person or these individuals involved in our government? They should not be there. I want to read another article here. This is from Concerned Voters in Westchester. And by the way, the author is Nada Cater. Or is it Nada Cater? Nada Cater. Is that a pseudonym? June 29, 2020. Here is an important announcement from a new coalition that has formed in Westchester County as a result of the recent primary election experience, which have not changed, I would imagine. There were egregious issues during the New York 2020, the NY 2020 primary elections, from delays of absentee ballots, voter suppression during early voting, and 2 to 3 to 4 hour lines to vote on primary day, as evidenced by the deluge of complaints posted on social media and covered by the press. There is widespread outrage, which is more than warranted. To address these alarming issues, a coalition is being formed under the moniker Concerned Voters of Westchester, inviting Westchester-based organizations that represent the diversity of our county to join in the initiative. Haven't heard about these guys. Maybe they're still out there somewhere. But we got to talk about these organizations too. The coalition plans to call on elected officials to conduct a robust investigation into all election violations by immediately holding public hearings to ensure an accurate, fair, fully accessible, safe, and secure election for November. And this is 2020, but that still rings true for this year, 2023. We must ensure that our elections are not tampered with, that there's no corruption. There are a lot of absentee ballots I hear that have been distributed by the Westchester County Board of Elections. Are they keeping tabs on the people who are coming to collect these ballots? How many have been issued? That's an easy way of committing election fraud. Going back to the food distribution lines, the individuals on there who are not going to vote because they don't care. And I know, because I asked many of them while I was at one of the food distributions one day, not too long ago. Most said they're not voting. In fact, I think all of them said they weren't voting. But they are still registered to vote. They can still vote if they choose to. And that's the problem. So what they do, they have their names. They compile this data, this list of these people, and then they go and get their ballots. They don't care. Whatever. I see you, Tasha, all the time at the food distribution. My girl, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go ahead, sign my name. And I know for a fact that Tasha Diaz's people call up people asking them if it's okay to sign their name. I know this because it's been told to me from a person who received this call. And he said, sure, because he didn't care either way. He was focused on whatever he was doing that day. And so imagine how many times that happens and how many votes go to certain people that way. And that's a problem. So people need to go and get their asses up to vote. If they can't go for some reason, because I understand there's certain people that just can't get to a polling place, then there needs to be a more secure way that they can vote themselves from home. There are a lot less important things that they make difficult for people to cheat or to lie about their identity. This should be a number one thing. And this should be concerning because there are still individuals that are involved in politics that have committed election fraud because they pled guilty to it. That's how I know. And I'll show you. One of them I've been dealing with here in Yonkers recently because he's suing me for $1 million for speaking the truth, for reading public information to you folks here on the podcast. The gentleman's name is Zahid Jarris. I'm sure you're very familiar with that guy. But he's still very involved. In fact, not that long ago, you saw the event at the Castle Royale, the one that I walked into. He was there with a small group of individuals, affluent individuals, and he was speaking, which I found to be very surprising that he would be there next to the mayor, speaking at an event for the mayor, having his history. Officials of developers, Bruce Ratner's firm are claiming the company had no clue it recruited a convicted drug dealer and election fraudster to salvage a stalled $842 million mixed-use development in Yonkers. So he was hired by this development company that built the Ridge Hill development. There was a bunch of scandals with that, a big scandal with that. They did not know that they hired a convicted drug dealer and election fraudster to facilitate that transaction, that development deal. He's still involved in Yonkers. He's still being hired by developers. He's also being hired by our elected officials to run their campaigns. He's also facilitating development deals still over in Ludlow Park, the Fernbrook deal, the Ginsburg and McQuestion deal over there. So he's still involved. And it's important for him to have these elected officials that are in office now, the ones that are selling out Yonkers, to remain in office. He has to finish his business. This is a rich guy. He lives in Scarsdale. He has a big pool and tennis court in his home. Meanwhile, people in the city of Yonkers that are being pushed out are becoming homeless, having trouble finding another affordable place to live, having to leave their home and family because this man wants to become richer. And the elected officials that he controls and manipulates want a piece of that money. And so they will sell you out. And he's devised a great plan to use people that look like you, or I should say the people that live in the area that are being pushed out. That's a slap in the face. It's almost like a joke. The first Black City Council president. Let's celebrate that, Black folks. But what does she go and do? She extends the terms for another term limit so they can remain in power. How does that benefit Black people? Or really the majority of the people in Yonkers of all colors? But it has affected Black people the worst. They have been most affected negatively because it is their community on the Northwest Side that has been gobbled up by the movie studios, the developers who are involved with this guy. He is also behind the city council president. She thanked his son when she won her election, along with the mayor and along with other individuals that are involved in these real estate transactions, including the chairwoman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So how is she going to represent the people, especially that live in that area, when all the developers, all the players that are involved in this gentrification, this takeover of the downtown waterfront area and the northwest area of Yonkers are the people she's thanking for getting to become the first Black city council president? Can you explain that one to me? Do you understand that? Do you see where her loyalty will lie? And this is no disrespect to the city council president, because with all due respect, madam, I have to tell the people the facts. They must know the truth. There's an election this year. And since all of you elected officials that represent them are neglecting your duty to inform the people that there's an election this November and that some of you are for re-election, I must do the job. I'll do it for you. I'll also do it for all the community organizations out there that are nowhere to be found, except when they're receiving a check or hosting elected officials at one of their galas. Where are your voices? They're not being heard. The people are not aware that elections are going on. They're also not aware of the changes that are happening. It would be nice to know that the ShopRite, the CVS, is probably going to go and be replaced by Whole Foods and a bunch more luxury developments. It would be nice for them to know that there's elections, because they should come out and vote, since the rents, the cost of living in that area is going up. Since many are being pushed out because their homes have been bought up by investors who intend on knocking them down. And now they can't find another place to live. It would be nice for them to know that there are elections so that they can decide to vote for someone else, someone who's more aligned with what they would like to see happen. Where are you guys at? Quiet. And that's how they are suppressing the voter turnout, by keeping the elected officials quiet, by pacifying the community organizations and the community leaders and the activists with a few dollars here for the meantime. I'm not taking that short change and then looking back and say, man, I sold my people out and now I got thrown under the bus. Not stupid. I know the game. So I hope you enjoy it now. But at the end of the day, your people are going to be the ones that have suffered. And you would have helped it out by remaining quiet. You're just as guilty. They don't care about your programs. They don't care about your ideas. They just care about you remaining shut during these elections. They're high stakes here. They're already pushing it with the fourth term. A lot of people are upset. They would hate for this large group of people, voters, to come out who just want to vote for something different and do just that. And so we must make people aware that there are elections, and that if we don't change the individuals that are in office, they're going to change you. That's a fact. You already see the rents going up, and they're not done yet. No jobs, no community benefits, no improvement to the streets, no crime reduction, no reduction in taxes, no reduction in cost of living, no improvement in availability of affordable housing. Nothing that they said they would do and that these developments would bring has come to fruition. Nothing. And so it's time for you guys to come out and vote, because what else choice do you have? Eventually, you will be gone. So if you want an opportunity to try and remain in this city and maybe turn things around a bit, it's time we vote different. And I'm not against improvements. I'm not against development, but this is not the type of development that we want here in Yonkers. Yonkers is going to be a movie studio city. That's it. With a bunch of luxury developments for the movie studio people to live close to the studios, and then they can drive to their homes on the east side that they now own, that they took from the elderly out there and stuffed them in these senior boxes that they built with federal money. And they're getting federal money to keep them in there. That's it. With the few migrants that they brought in from around the world to work as the caterers, the janitors and everything else, the minimum wage paying jobs, and they're going to travel into Yonkers. That's what it's going to be. Transit-oriented district. Smart city, 15-minute city, one of the first in the country. That's what it's about. I heard there was a long list of seniors, some in their 90s, signed up for absentee ballots. We are watching, calling out everything from here on out. Be warned, call it out. You got to let it be known, because I know who that is. That's Mr. Zahi Jeris, I would imagine, in my humble opinion. There is no respect for Bellamy. She should be in jail. She took office to pass the term limit extension. That was it, because that's all she's done. And if she does have buyer's remorse, like some people say, meaning that she regrets what she did, then the only way to right that wrong is to be vocal about it. Say, listen, I shouldn't have done that. This is wrong, and these are the reasons why. I didn't see what was going to be happening, but now I do. A lot of changes I wasn't aware of, although I was approving for the zoning changes, although I was approving these projects, I was approving this, I was approving the sale of that. But I didn't know. I had no idea. And so, Carolyn, we must keep a lookout, and we must inform people who are the individuals that are likely to do this, like the man Zahi Jeris. Jeris in 1994 was arrested by undercover Westchester cops and charged with helping facilitate. He's always helping facilitate something. The sale of more than 20 pounds of marijuana, records show. He was allowed to plead guilty to a misdemeanor. How many of you Black and Latino dudes out there hustling with 20 pounds of marijuana was allowed to plead to a misdemeanor? Because he controls judges. And back then, I would imagine he was connected to people that control judges. And I mean, they appointed the judges, and therefore these judges owe them favors. So again, if Lakeisha Collins Bellamy was to become a judge, like I believe is going to happen, who does she owe favors to? If you go before her and someone that she's cool with has an issue with you, or if someone goes before her that's cool with the people that supported her and put her there, they are going to get away with the crime. Why do you think the Yonkers Voice guy, who was charged with sexual abuse of a minor and was facing 7 to 14 years, was allowed to plead to a lesser charge and was given 5 years probation? How do you go from 7 to 14 years to 5 years probation? You sexually abused a minor. The minors understand crime. Then you got the Stephen Dolan situation. I mean, I can go on. And that's why it's a problem when these judges are appointed, especially when they are supported by a man named Zahi Jeris. While Jeris' criminal past hasn't come up in the trial, Cantoni's ex-boss Bruce Bender testified that FCR never had hired Jeris if it was aware that Jeris' relationship with Anabi previously included lavishing her with tens of thousands of dollars in gifts, included student loans and car payments, and they're referring to Sandy Anabi, the former Yonkers City Council member, whose story, is identical to what's happening now with Tasha Diaz. I mean, Tasha Diaz is the 2023 Sandy Anabi, no doubt about it. She she flip-flopped on that housing ordinance. No doubt about it. And for all you folks looking to find an affordable housing, that have been having trouble finding an affordable housing, that are seeing how difficult it is to live in Yonkers, the affordability, you could thank Tasha Diaz, who's up for re-election this year, because she flip-flopped after she lied to the people and said she supported it. And then she didn't. The mayor vetoed it. Why? Because the developers did not want 20% ordinance. So it remained at 10%. And they talk about feasibility. Well, if it would have been brought up to 20%, then the developers would not have come here and build. And that's a lie, because a lot of the developers are getting federal and state money anyway. They're getting these subsidies to develop these buildings. And then they get subsidies for the tenants when they move in there. And then they get tax incentives from the IDA. And they're already multimillionaires. Some of them are billionaires. Cry me a river. Cry me a river. They're worried about their profit margins. Maybe you're not going to get the percentage you like to see. But there are people that are looking for a place to live, not to make an extra mill. I know you guys, man. I never understood how some people could be so heartless and care more about money than a human being. Sometimes it'll be like, why am I not like that? Because I've missed out on opportunities to make more money, or missed out on just different opportunities because I just could not do these things. And it's just greed. That's what we see. Greed. This is a record of Zahi Jeris. On May 17, 2011, an 11-count superseding indictment was filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York against Jeris and one other individual, charging them with several offenses, including conspiracy to accept corrupt payments. So he's the middleman. He was the bag man. Now he's teaching his son how to be the bag man. And they work to corrupt our elections. They have individuals in the Westchester County Board of Elections that are very much involved with them. That's a problem. You got to watch those polling stations. The guy who hired a lot of those poll watchers was probably Tom Meyer Jr. His dad, Tom Meyer Sr., the chairman of the Yonkers Democratic Committee. Why do you think Tom Meyer Jr. works at the Board of Elections? That's been always his dream. That's the only place dad can get him in. Why not be, a supervisor in DPW? Why travel up to White Plains when you don't have to? You'll make good money in Yonkers, and you're closer. He was the one that was in charge of hiring and training the poll watchers. So when election night comes up and the different polls, they're calling up their people. Hey, how's it looking over there? Hey, how's it looking? You know what? Those absentee ballots that you're talking about, Carolyn, they'll have them stashed somewhere, and then they'll look at the numbers and see what's going on. If their candidate is not doing too well, then they'll call up the polling station and say, hey, we need you to slide in about 10 of those absentee ballots we got, or 10 of those blank ballots we collected. Some of them might be dead. Some of the people might be dead, because the way that works when dead people vote is that the system doesn't catch up. Someone can die even, a year ago. Let's say someone dies, 2 months ago, right? They're still registered to vote. The system doesn't pick it up. It may not even catch it for years if it catches it. And so they can use their absentee ballot. All you have to do is go to the obituaries. Who died? I'm sure they time it. Let's go look at the obituary a few months before the elections. Who died in Yonkers? And let's go get their ballots. Let's go request their absentee ballots. And they're going to be voting. That's how it's done. And that's what Zahi Jeris is all about. Again, he pleaded guilty in 1998 of election fraud. Where's that article at? Thought I had that up here. Actually, I do. Check this out. And what's interesting about this situation here in 1998 with Zahi Jeris is, who else was arrested around that time for election fraud? A former councilman. This is May 3rd, 1998, the New York Times. The chairman of the Westchester's Conservative Party, Vincent Natrella, and a former Yonkers City councilman, Edward J. Fagan, Jr., have pleaded guilty to forging signatures on nominating petitions, a violation of the state election law and a criminal misdemeanor. Edward J. Fagan was one of the council members during the deseg situation. He was one of the people that was supporting the segregation. So the segregationists are still here in Yonkers, let me tell you, okay? They're still here. Their children, grandchildren are still involved in politics. This one of the segregationist leaders of that time, son is the Yonkers Inspector General. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it honest, Liam. I'm just saying. Your mom didn't want no integration. She didn't want it so bad that she created a group and was giving her time and energy to being out there and yelling, "No, we don't want those crackheads and crack dealers and gang bangers on the east side, aka Black and Latinos." That's just what it is, Liam. Mommy did that. I mean, you could go online and see the videos. It's there. So Ed Fagan or whatever, he was a Yonkers councilman that was with that. He was with keeping blacks and Latinos from the east side. Joseph J. Mahoney, a spokesman for Attorney General Dennis C. Vacco, said the pair pleaded guilty to the charges when they were arraigned on April 21st before Judge Joseph F. Noka of Yonkers Criminal Court. The judge sentenced both defendants to a conditional discharge and imposed a fine of $250 each. So where is the punishment for this? How are you going to, keep this from happening again? You're going to discourage other people from committing election fraud when this is the penalty they receive. It's a risk that they take. If they win big. They help someone get in. That person owes them favors. I mean, look how much money he's made, Zahid Jarris. Even though he went to jail for 4 years, he still came out big. He went and got himself another house with a tennis court and a pool and a grotto in Scarsdale. How'd he do that? His wife got a job as a supervisor, and she didn't even have to take the civil service test at first to get it. But she did after Freddie Vasquez started talking about it, right? So to get on ballot or to aspire to the position of district leader, candidates must obtain signatures of registered party members. Zahid Jarris, a Republican ward leader in Yonkers, is under investigation on similar charges, Mr. Mahoney said, and he eventually would plead guilty to those charges. But criminality is a prerequisite here in the city of Yonkers. Rockland DA to handle probe of alleged Mount Kisco election fraud. This is May 31st, 2023. Rockland prosecutors are picking up the investigation into alleged election fraud in Mount Kisco's mayor's race, the mayor's race, after Westchester District Attorney Mimi Roca recused herself because of ties to one of the candidates. Now that's a problem. That's a problem. How do you think that affects investigations here in Yonkers? If we truly had an independent individual who was a, law-abiding, making people, upholding people to the law, doesn't matter if they're elected officials or not. You know how many investigations will be opened up here? But she can't, because she was campaigning with the very elected officials that people would probably say need to be investigated. So that's a problem. And that's politics in general, folks. And it's disheartening, which is why, again, my wife and I, we have been thinking about life. And maybe we need to make sure that, we survive because our system is falling apart. These politicians are so corrupt from the top down up. Those that are tasked with investigating and holding them accountable are corrupt themselves. They've become politicians. Look at Letitia James. She's out there in New York City with a microphone, chanting and egging people on to hate Donald Trump, calling him all kinds of names, insulting him as if she's a middle school student. This is the Attorney General of the state of New York, looking like a fool. And she's black, which made me even more upset because you should be up there representing right. You have sold yourself out. And you're worried about Donald Trump when there's so much going on here in the state of New York. here in local elections that needs to be investigated, and the people are suffering. New York is going to be one of those places, or Yonkers is going to be like New York City, very rich, or you're not. You either get Section 8 for one of those few apartments that they managed to put up in these luxury buildings, and you better not say nothing or do anything because we're going to kick you right out. We're looking for it. Or you have all the money to pay for it. The middle folks, you got to struggle somehow. Go somewhere cheaper. Figure it out. We're taking away the ShopRite. The people we care about, they go to Whole Foods. We're blocking your views of the Hudson because the people we care about, they want to live on the waterfront. They don't care about purchasing homes really because in the next coming decade, less and less people will be homeowners. The average age of a first-time homeowner is only going up. The same as the age of a person retiring. Unless, of course, you work for the city of Yonkers, in which I'm sure you will retire with a fat pension. But even then, you have to leave. You have to go to Yorktown, Somers, Mahopac, Carmel. This is for the very elite. This is what they're building here. This is the future of Yonkers, and you folks need to start thinking about your future. The individual here in this investigation is a man named William Sartori, or Bill Sartori, the chairman of the Mount Kisco Democratic Party, and also a Yonkers City employee. He got a job in the sustainability office making $40,000 a year. But that was a payoff. Why did they give him that job? He already has an energy company. I'm sure he's doing well. That's why he accepted the $40,000 gig. He screwed up and went to a campaign event with a Yonkers, City of Yonkers shirt on. There was a complaint filed as a result. The guy isn't too bright. This is probably why he's getting caught up left and right. But he was given the $40,000 a year job because he is the chairman of the Mount Kisco Democratic Party. And when you're trying to take over the county, the Democratic Party in the county, then Bill Sartori, the chairman of the Mount Kisco Democratic Party, is a guy you want to buy off. And so they did. With a $40,000 a year job here in the city of Yonkers, your $40,000 taxpayers. But he gets indicted for forging signatures. But they have to take the case up to Rockland County because we can't expect a real investigation here in Westchester. And so it's time for you guys to come out and vote. There are elections coming on. And if anything else, disrupt the system. Vote for the opponent. Don't vote for the incumbents. We need to do this in damn near every election, from local to county, state, and federal. Unless you're ready to march on Washington, which we see what happens when people protested the government. They targeted them like terrorists, like Osama bin Laden. In fact, they treated them worse than Osama bin Laden. So it's time that we go out and vote. November 7th. Early voting is October 28th. Election fraud has been something that's been a problem in Westchester for a long time, and it's still the same individuals that are part of it. So come out and vote. You got to make sure you vote. November 7th. Early voting is October 28th. Again, where are the community groups? Where are the community voices heard? The Yonkers NAACP. You needed maybe a coalition. Ron Matten, someone wrote this, I think was a great idea. Ron Chute, Margaret Coleman, all these other individuals that are saying things, some louder than others, need to come together and be very loud, be very vocal. If you believe what you're saying, then you need to inform the people and do it on a bigger scale. A lot of people don't know what's going on. And some folks who are there for the community, or say they are there for the community, and they're doing things to inform people, seem to be forgetting to inform people of certain things. They know about transactions going on, but they don't inform the people. The people are very much surprised. of the changes happening. And that's because our leaders, our elected leaders, are doing a poor job. And that's because they have mostly been bought off, except Freddie Vasquez right here on Basement Politics. No, they haven't given me anything. Okay? Don't get it twisted, folks. And not that I'm looking for anything. I'm just telling you, I'm keeping it clean because truth is what matters. Truth matters. All right? I'm not dumb. Do you think you're going to appease me with crumbs? I'm going to jump on it temporarily, and then they come in and move you anyway. That's what they're going to do to you guys, man. So you have to think about who you want to be. How do you want to see yourself when you look in the mirror? Me, I'm more about my integrity than money. Have a beautiful day, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Be blessed. Be well. And make sure you vote for my wife, Fab over 40. She's fabulous.
Ready,
Hey, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basic Politics. Have a beautiful week. Time to go. Make sure you go out and vote November 7th. Early voting October 28th. Tell a friend to tell a friend. There's an election going on if you didn't know.